Hello and welcome to another episode of the Odyssey Podcast, where we explore the lives and journeys of leaders in the community. I'm your host, Jeremy Mullally. Today's guest is a man by the name of Dustin. In early life, he started out in professional wrestling, and he went on to start up 6 gyms in 6 years. And so Dustin, he now guides and coaches gym owners to scale and grow their gyms. And just recently, he's released a book called Reinforce Your Gym, and we're going to be talking a bit about that in today's episode. So, Dustin, welcome to the show. Really glad to have you here, mate.
Thank you, Jeremy. My new friend in the land down under. So excited to connect with you and get to know your audience, and hopefully I can bring some value to help them grow their business too. That's what I want to do. So let's do this, man.
Yeah, awesome. Like I said, I really appreciate you coming on, and you really stuck out to me when I saw a bit of your work, a bit of your content as well, because I'm a big wrestling fan, and when I saw that you were, you had just wrestling, and then you said professional wrestling, and just before we dived on here, we were saying that you've wrestled with some big names, and before your career started. Do you want to tell us how that kind of came about and how you got into wrestling in the first place? Because one of the things we like to talk about on the podcast is people's origin story, where they started out. So where did that start for you, Dustin?
Yeah, it's pretty cool because actually my entry into fitness and my entry into pro wrestling were a side-by-side journey. And so just to kind of go back to where my health was at its rock bottom was actually in high school. Most people want to go back to their high school weight. They're like, that was when I was in my peak shape. Not me. I'm the opposite. I was the most out of shape. I was actually tipping the scales at 260 pounds. And I'm a tall guy. I'm 6'2". So I wore it. And, back then when I was younger, there was these sizes of jeans called Husky. I don't think they have them anymore, but I wore Husky jeans. I wore, XL and double XL shirts. So I just basically looked like a giant parachute walking around to cover my body. Never wanted to take my shirt off during the summer. Low confidence. And so one day I'm just sitting in my class, and I don't have a lot of friends, but this one guy behind me that was pretty fit, he had some nice toned arms. He tapped me on the shoulder and he said, "Hey man, if you'd like, I'm going to go hit the gym after school, and I would love for you to come with me." And it was just the way he asked. It wasn't like, "You're fat, you need to get your butt to the gym." It just sounded like we were going to hang out. So it was this very like low key way to get me to say yes. And so I'm glad he did. And so I went, and we proceeded to do a standard meathead workout, which is chest and bicep for my guys that like to hit the gym, right? It's just bench press and curls. But that was what I needed, because I got this amazing pump and endorphins are rushing. And I'm like, oh my God, what have I been missing out on? He just opened my eyes up to a whole new world. This is amazing. And so for 6 months, I went with this friend to the gym and committed to transforming myself. And I actually lost 60 pounds of body fat. I got down to a lean 200. I had visible abs. I had some nice, big arms, and I said, wow, this has been awesome. I feel so much better about myself. My confidence is through the roof, but it's not just about me now. I want to help other people to achieve this. And that was the day I decided to become a certified trainer. And so, when you're in high school, everyone's like, what are you going to do? And I didn't have an answer, but that day I did. The day that I looked in the mirror and I was fully transformed, I said, now I know where my life is going to go. And that's going to be fitness. So we could kind of jump right into how did I get into pro wrestling? Or I don't know if you have any questions about that so far, Jeremy.
No, I mean, yeah, so for you, it was very much a case of you saw the results that you got for yourself and you wanted to pass that on to other people. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. And I just knew, because I suffered from a lot of the false promises that exist in the fitness industry. I fell for a lot of the propaganda. It's like this hydroxy-cut fat burning pill, $50, and it's going to 10x your fat burn. And I would eat those things like candy and nothing would happen. And, I would go to Subway because they market it as healthy, but I would order 2 footlongs and no one told me this is a lot of calories and you're over consuming. So I was just completely lacking education, and I was just blindly following what marketing was guiding me to do. So that's something I'm very passionate about, is educating people. This is what is on the label. This is what this ingredient means. This is how this company is trying to trick you, because it's not taught in school. Nutrition has literally been pulled out. And so it's kind of like fend for yourself type of environment. And so then you mix in that we have more work from home jobs and commuting and people sitting at desks, and it's the perfect blend to create obesity. And so, that transformation was the first thing that got me excited. But today, I truly believe that I'm in a war against obesity. That our country, the U.S., is on track to be 50% obese by the year 2030. That's not a long time away, guys. Like, that is really scary. And they say the global pandemic is just 5 years behind that. And so, or sorry, the global obesity pandemic of being 50% obese is going to be in 2035. So America's leading the charge in obesity, and that's not something we need to be proud of. We need to do the right things to change it around and to flip it the course, because it's going to be scary when we start hitting those numbers, right? So that's why I get really fired up about helping people. And it's funny with that friend that tapped me on the shoulder and invited me to the gym. Like, I feel like that's what I do these days with my marketing. Is like, I'm tapping random people on Facebook and Instagram and just like, come in, it's going to change your life, and trying to be cool and not judgy and not saying, man, you could really use 20 pounds. Like, that makes people feel down. And so that's, why I get really fired up about helping other gym owners too, because I know I can't open enough gyms across the country to turn the tide. I need to help all the other gyms, my kin, to do this. So that's why I get really fired up about this, Jeremy.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And you said something interesting there, which I'd love to dive more into later, but about the fact that you're basically being that friend that was that to you, tapping on the shoulder, and doing that to multiple people. Because, sort of in a business context, sometimes when we're, in that sort of marketing or sales hat, we're wearing that hat, it can be sometimes perceived, oh, I'm bothering people, or I'm sort of invading people's sort of space. But no, like the way you're looking at it is the other way. You're actually saying, no, I'm tapping on the shoulder. I'm being like that mate that helped me. Is that sort of like sort of a
100%
switch in perspective for you?
Yes, 100%. And so it's funny, like I said earlier, that same person that tapped me on the shoulder asked me to go to the gym. Well, when I started getting in shape, he was like, do you want to come over to my house? I actually have a wrestling ring, and me and my friends put on shows. And then I'm like, what? Like, there's more, a curtain number 2? And so
I want to get into that too.
I go to his backyard, and no lie, this man has a 16 by 16 foot ring, 4 metal poles, ropes, pads. It's like legitimate. And I'm like, how in the world do you have a pro wrestling ring in your backyard? And what it turns out is his dad was a contractor. And the way he looked at it is, hey, there's a lot of gangs, there's a lot of trouble kids can get into. They go on graffiti and get into, drugs and alcohol. So I will actually build my kids this ring, knowing that they're going to want to stay home and play and get their friends to come over, rather than trying to leave and get into trouble. So that was his kind of take. And so he's like, I'm going to put a ton of padding. I'm going to be able to keep an eye on them. So that was his way of saying, like, let's compromise. You guys stay here, but you got to do good in school. And so I go and I sit, and 2 times a week, these guys would put on a show. And what they would do is they'd watch Monday Night Raw, and they would like remember everything, and then they would repeat it the next day, but with their own characters, So it was hilarious. But when I sat there, just the first show, I said, guys, I got to get involved. I want to be one of you. How do I do this? And they said, come on Saturdays, we'll start training, and we'll teach you what we know. And they did the best they could. They were not professionally trained. They were backyard wrestlers. But down the years, we ended up going to a professional school and getting professionally trained so that we can get on the circuit and start getting bookings. But funny story I'll share with you guys. If you guys watch AEW, they're like the next big company, with WWE. That gentleman that tapped me on the shoulder was Matt Jackson of the Young Bucks. And so it's in my book. And there I am as Diablo, and there's his brother Nick. And so I got their toys right over here. We're good friends. Again, we've since 2001, so over 20 years we've been buddies. And so that is the person that kind of got me into the industry. So that's kind of like this entry point. But yeah, I'll stop there, Jeremy, to see if you have any follow-up questions on that.
No, for sure. Like, and I really love the ethos that was around your friend's dad, like creating that environment and atmosphere for people in the community. So basically that's where it sparked something for you for wrestling. And how long did you kind of stay in that track of you said you went to get professional training, and you're wrestling with other people? How long were you still in that world for?
Yeah, so we did the backyard thing a few years. We went and got trained in the mid 2010s, and so from that point forward, we started getting bookings on local shows. So we're in the LA area, so we're doing luchas, a lot of Latino inspiration. We're right by Mexico, so there's a lot of lucha shows, there's a lot of American shows too, and so we're kind of getting booked. And so my full time in the business was right around 10 years. And so that was me because I put a timestamp on myself. I was about 17, mid 17, when I said, I'm going to do this, but if I don't make it and I don't have a big contract or big offer on the table by the age 28, I'm going to completely devote myself to something else, because it is a young man's sport, just like all sports. You know, there's not a lot of guys that get signed in the NFL or NBA at 47, 37. Like they're in their teens, their 20s, maybe early 30s. And that's like the cutoff. So I gave myself this 10-year deadline. And so I worked my tail off. And so I showed that picture earlier where I was originally a singles wrestler named Diablo, but we see these brothers start to tag up called the Young Bucks. And I said to myself, man, they're getting a lot of bookings because that's a unique, thing to bring to a show. All the other wrestlers are singles wrestlers. Well, they're the only tag team. And so all these shows want to book them. So I got my brother aside. He was also got involved in the wrestling. And I said, why don't we become a tag team? And so we formed what we called the Cutler Brothers. And we just changed our last name from Bogle to Cutler. And we were these evil personal trainers. So get this, Jeremy, we would throw a protein powder in the opponent's eyes. He can't see. I would put a resistance band around their neck. And I'm doing a chest fly, and it's choking them out while my brother distracts the ref. We would clobber people with dumbbells. Like we were just totally these mean, evil trainers, and it got over really big. The fans loved it. But as time went on, I didn't see the contracts and the opportunity I needed to see. Also, my body was starting to really take a beating, and I just knew I need to go all in on fitness. And last thing I'll say on this is, I'm big into paying attention to just like, what is the universe telling you? You could call it divine intervention, God, a higher power, but like, I just felt like there was an excessive amount of resistance to make it in pro wrestling for me. And then with fitness, it was like, I didn't even try it. And I was getting clients like raining from the sky. Like I would just get people referred and people texting me, I heard you're a trainer. And like, I'd even like mark, I'd even try. And I was filling up my book, and I decided at that point to eventually open my gym. And so, again, that whole divine intervention, when I quit wrestling and I went all in fitness, that's when I opened 6 gyms in 6 years. And so it was almost like that higher power was like, this is what you're meant to do. This is the mark you're meant to make on the world. You're here to help people with fitness. And so then I really said I made the right choice, and I went all in and attacked it with everything in me. So yeah, that was where that decision was made, and where, I really attacked it. And that was around 2012.
Yeah, right. And that's it. I want to just focus on that for a second, if we could, because what you're saying is that you kind of were listening to what was out there in a way to ultimately decide where you were going to go. Like, what would be your advice to people that sort of, because, that it can happen at various points in our life, those sort of decisions or crossroads. What would be your advice to people that when they are at that kind of junction, to how to make that decision?
It's tough because, there's a lot of hate on the internet, a lot of memes floating around about don't be a quitter, don't give up. The guy chipping away is about to hit the gold and then he turns around. Those are all floating around. And I say, as you're doing something a long time, especially a business, you got to look at it with 2 P's always. Do I need to persevere and just keep doing what I'm doing, or do I need to pivot? And so like COVID was a perfect example of a lot of people having to pivot. Like restaurants had to deliver the food to people instead of them coming in. And if they didn't do that, they try to just persevere, they probably went under, right? And so you have to, as the business owner, you got to have that intuition. And that's why it's important to have mentors, talking to your peers, because maybe you don't know, but if you can talk to other people and kind of get your finger on the pulse, you'll be part of the change when it happens. You won't be the lagging, which means it's too late. So I think that's why I had to make that call. Like I did lock in for 10 years and I said, I will persevere. I will give it everything, but then I will pivot. And so I think at the end of the day, you should ask yourself, how long have I been doing the same thing and not getting results? And so, if you're not getting that, talk to a mentor, say, am I crazy? Should I just keep going? Or is it time to pivot? Do I need to get on another social media channel? Do I need to change up my content? Do I need to change up my offer? No one's buying it. Doing the same thing over and over is the definition of insanity. And I say, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So don't spend too long persevering. We can all get locked in and doing things the way we've always done it. And I think that hurts us more than it helps us. So yeah, hopefully that's the advice that's useful for the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And love how you're coming to that point because I mean, even for myself, there's you sort of have that instilled in you, like persevere. You know, you just keep going, keep trying. But you're right, you do have to also be aware of what the reality is as well. So, but that gets you to the point of opening up your first gym and having six. I mean, people struggle with one gym over
Yes.
decades. Like, what's the story behind opening up six gyms in just 6 years?
It was definitely very aggressive. And so this is where everything sounds like it's going good for Dustin. And so this is where things turn. And so when I did open 6 gyms in 6 years, I had to learn a painful business lesson. And it actually forced me to close 2 gyms and sell one. And, that's not something, that's fun to like do because you're letting people go. These clients now don't have a gym. You're breaking contracts that you signed with, landlords. Like all this ugliness comes from it. But I knew I had to pivot because the way that it was pacing and also the huge mistake I made. And here it is. When I was coaching, I was there at location 1 and I brought the magic because I'm the owner. My back's against the wall. The bills are all on me. We have to perform or die, right? And so like I showed up every day and I put in very long days and the performance was there, the customer service was there. But when I went to location 2, the mistake I made is I didn't scale culture and I didn't scale leadership. And so the big issue here is you can tell people how to run a session, how to make a burger, how to deliver a service. But if there's a certain ambiance, there's a certain energy, there's a way you do things. That's how they describe culture. This is how we do things around here. This is how we behave. Well, if that does not get duplicated. And so an example a lot of people know is Chick-fil-A. You ever say thank you? They say my pleasure. What if you went to a Chick-fil-A and you said thank you and they were silent? You're like, the culture didn't get transferred here. What's going on? The lines are super long and they're not like cranking through people as quick as they normally are. Like something's broken here. The place is dirty. They're closing early. The culture is broken. And so they have this name brand and they have this system, but if it's not being held by a leader, it will wane. And so that's what I didn't know. I thought as a bonehead, first to business owner, I didn't know what I didn't know. I thought I just need to sign a lease, buy fitness equipment, hire coaches. We're done. Let's go to the next town. And that's why I did it so quickly. But when I got to 6 is when I started to feel the ripple effects of not putting a leader in place. And what I should have done, and this is a good advice to anybody who has a storefront business that they want to open up more, have that team train at the first location. That's the magic location that gave you the confidence to open more. Like it's probably your best business and it's got your best, culture and behavior in it. Let them be in that for 60, 90 days, even 6 months. If you can, swing the capital to employ them that long, it's so valuable because they say leadership's not caught, it's taught. Or sorry, flip that. Leadership's not taught, it's caught. So by being around people, we kind of learn monkey see, monkey do. I'm like, oh, I see how they open the gym. I see how they talk to people. I see what they do between sessions. I can do that. And you start copying it. Well, the mistake I made is they opened a new gym and they didn't have anything to see. I just did a few days of training. We open next week, guys. Let's do this. And then, I was there the first week and then I'm on to the next town. So no culture being duplicated. And that was the big thing that caused the 6 gym empire to come crumbling down. So words of the wise to anybody that's in the brick and mortar space and wants to open more, make sure you take those steps so you don't have that same issue come up.
Yeah, and how much time do you think it takes to allow for it to like organically be caught, like you said, that culture and that energy and vibe that you get from a successful culture or successful team? How do you sort of allow for that time for it to just naturally happen?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the more time, the better. I mean, I've even seen there's a restaurant out here called Cracker Barrel, and they'll have them go 6 months and work at another location. And sometimes it's very far away. Like they're coming to a new state they do not have a location in. What do? They literally fly them to another state. They pay for hotel, they pay for living expenses, and they pay them to be working because they know it's that valuable that when we open in this new state, we need everything to feel and taste and be the same as it is in these other states. Otherwise, we'll fail. And so I feel like the longer, the better. I won't even give you a number, but I'd say minimum 60 days to 90 days. I would not do just a week or a month. Not enough time to absorb everything. But the more time, the better. And, like, again, when I'm talking about gyms, it's things like coaches and the managers and things like that you need to make a lot of them. You need to duplicate a lot of them. They're the ones that you want to have in that facility as much time as possible.
Yeah, fantastic. And I want to get to talking about sales, because that's something that's a pillar of any business. But yourself, you've got a lot of experience in that, and it's something that's propelled you forward in your career and brought you a lot of success. And the good thing about you've got some acronyms, which is cool. Can you talk about the CHARM sales process? I was curious about what that's still for, and I'm keen to hear about it. So you want to tell us what that means?
Just shameless plug. I have a section for marketing, for sales, and for leadership in the book. So if you guys want to hear all of the tips, because we're going to dive into one here, but I have 5 for each: marketing, sales, and leadership. It's called Reinforce Your Gym. It's on Amazon. Shameless plug. But
no shame in that plug at all.
But I'm different than most coaches and gym owners. A kind of a culture in our industry, and actually, if I've talked to more industries, I've learned it's all of them suffer from this, and that is a negative state and mindset around asking for money and just sales in general. And so it takes a special kind of person to take a sales job, but then it takes an extra special person to be successful in a sales job. Because I have a lot of people that will come to me and say, "Oh, I have sales experience," and first the question is like, "Tell me how many dollars you sold." Because if you sold one thing, you can say you have sales experience. So I want to hear, is it 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures? I'm not going to judge. But if you don't have that, then you are on the leaderboard. You're not paying attention. That's like a metric you want to brag about from one company to the other. It's like, I'm responsible for $1 million in sales at all my sales jobs. I'm responsible for 5 million. So if sales, people are not tracking that, start tracking that now. That is what's going to enable you to go ask for more when you punch up to your next job. But when it comes to the CHARM sales process, this is my way of making it very, very easy and digestible for that person that is scared to ask for money, that is scared to ask for the dollars. And so again, I think it plagues fitness a lot, because what we sell is honestly invisible. Like if I have an iPhone, I'm showing you, I'm pushing it around, I'm telling you, you get to take it home. When you sign up with me at the gym, you just get to go home with nothing, and you get an extra bill on your bank account the next day. And so it's invisible. And I'm telling you to trust me. Like, hey, Jeremy, don't worry. These little mystery calories, we're gonna we're gonna torch them. They're gonna go away. That muscle, we're gonna pack it on. And you're just like, okay, I guess. Like, it's complete trust and invisible. So the CHARM sales process puts them at ease, which puts you at ease. And so before we dive into it, the first thing I would say is check your self-talk. Because the first thing I find that get people like in their own head and cost them a sale is they're using a lot of I statements. So they're saying, I want to make this sale. I want to close this person. I want to get this commission. And those are all selfish statements. And that's why you're feeling that angst. But if you say, I can't wait for them to join this program, their life is going to change. They're going to be so happy after this conversation. Immediately it washes away that like performance fear, right? Like, you better show up because I need this commission. No. Make it about them in your head. And that's the first kind of way to get your heart rate down. But the CHARM is an acronym for a step-by-step process that can work for any business. This is not just fitness. So C, you could see I like to smile, but it's crack a smile. And so if I can get them to crack a smile, immediately their guard is down, because if they're very straight-faced and angry looking, I'm not going to have an easy time closing this person. So I need to make fun of myself. I need to make fun of something around me. I need to make fun of something we do in our business. Like, I just need to make a joke. Did you see this? Did you see that? Or just walk in and a big smile and say hi and say their first name. But that's your first thing. Do not proceed till you got them smiling, and keep working on it and find your go-to jokes that work, right? You can talk about your kids, whatever, but crack a smile, okay? H, now you dive into learning about them. So how can I help? What brings you in? Why are you here today? What can I do to help you? And let them just kind of go with their problem. One thing I've learned, this is a ninja tactic, do not use verbal nudges. Okay, what is a verbal nudge? That's when someone's talking and you're kind of verbally getting them to try to wrap up. So like, yeah, okay, yep. And what I'm trying to say to you is like, wrap up what you're saying, because I'm excited to say what I want to say. Salespeople, you are killing your sales if you're using verbal nudges. Literally zip it. Ask a question, zip it, and then let them ask and then prompt them with another question, and just let them say it in their words. You better be taking notes too. I'm a big fan. I don't know if you've heard of this. There's there's a digital notepad called Remarkable.
Yeah, we've got that here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I love this thing, man. No more having to buy tons of notepads. So I'm right. You know, you want to lose 20 pounds. Awesome. You're married. You got 2 kids. I'm just taking feverish notes because I need to have it ready for when I start pitching her. I need to use her words, but in a casual way, right? I don't want to be a robot and read it line for line. So that's the how can I help? Now the A is you need to ask for the pain. And so you want to like agitate is another way you can use A, but you want to just like say, how does that make you feel? You know, like you said you want to lose 20 pounds. How does that extra 20 pounds making you feel? So usually they're going to give you a very surface level answer. No matter what you're selling, this is your chance to bring in an emotion. So how does that make you feel? How long have you been working on this? How long have you been frustrated with this? What else have you tried? And so you're really diving into all the pain and you're trying to grab at least 5 things that are very painful because you guys know, you know, these are business people listening. People don't buy on logic, they buy on emotion. So you got to get them emotional. This is your chance to get them emotional. Because next is R, and that is reveal your solution. So now you're going to reveal your product, your service, and you're going to go back to your notes and you want to plug in their pain to what your service solves, linked to that pain. So you don't want to talk about building muscle to Mrs. Jones who said, I want to lose weight. You're going to create a mental disconnect. Like, you didn't hear me. So I say, Mrs. Jones, we have these high fat burning workouts that are only 30 minutes. And I know you said you're busy. Just coming to 3 of those a week is going to help you to lose those 20 pounds. And it's only 30 minutes. So you don't have to sacrifice a lot of your time. So you see how I kind of like sneakily put in what I offer plus her pain. And so I might hit 3 or 4. You said you go to the fast food place, you don't know what to eat. No problem, because we provide you a dining out guide, and it literally gives you menu items of all the possible or all the popular fast food and restaurants that are nearby, and you can just have it and look and see what you want to order that we approve, and it's going to support your fitness goals. So I'm just connecting pain to solution, and I want to make it overwhelming. That's why I say you want to at least do 3 to 5 of these. I prefer 5 because you want to blow their mind. This has to stand out than any other offer and any other gym or service they've talked to. This has to stand out and blow them away. So that's why you want a nice long list. You know, fans of Russell Brunson will know this is like the value stack, right? Like stack it up, give them a lot of stuff, right? And so the final one in charm is to make the sale. And this is a huge part. A lot of people in sales, especially people who don't like it, end the conversation with a very soft final line. So let me know what you think. Just, tell me whenever you're ready. And it's like, you just gave me an exit door. Like, I'm out of here. So are you ready to, let's get you started Monday. Do you want plan A or plan B, right? Like, it's asking for the sale, making the sale. That's the M. And so just a brief cap of it is crack a smile. How can I help? Ask for the pain, reveal your solution, and then make the sale. So that is the charm sales process. It applies to any business model.
Mate, love it. That's a really good approach to it all. And like any sort of sales process, you also have a focus on the importance of following up. Because, I mean, it would vary from industry to industry, like what that kind of sales process on the back end would look like. But can you talk about the importance of following up? Because I think it's something that is often neglected, and also there's probably built some anxiety around that as well from salespeople or business owners who are obviously doing their sales, because they're like, they're not obviously not interested because they're not following me up, So what's your opinion on that, and what is your sort of approach to following up?
So this is my bread and butter. This is what we do with my fitness business that we serve as gym owners, and it's called gym reinforcements. And so we do 100% of their lead follow-up because this is something that they just dread. And so we actually go in and we do it for them. But just to kind of share with you what that process looks like is, number one, let's start mindset, which is first get out of your head that you're bothering them. The world is noisier than ever, and a lot of people will just contact their leads once or twice, and that is industry average for just business. Like, I recently got a pool at our house, and I called 5 pool companies, and the first 3 never called me back to this day. And that was, 12 weeks ago. So like, I'm calling them with $100,000 plus job, and I'd even get a call back. Like that's so either A, they're swamped, or B, they have very awful follow-up, which I believe it's probably that. The fourth guy was answering me every 4 to 5 days. So I wrote him on Monday. He got back to me Thursday. I respond same day. He gets back to me Tuesday next week. Huge gaps between response. And I'm like, if this is how it's going to be working with you, you failed the interview, dude. I'm not going to go with you. The fifth guy, he says, I'm going to be at your house later today in about 2 hours. Are you going to be home? I'm going to walk your property. I'm going to measure out. I got a little tool. I'm going to ask you some questions about what you want to design exactly. And, you know, are you going to be available? So I was like, absolutely. So we do the whole walk. Then he says, can you come to my office in 2 days? I'm going to have a video mock-up for you. And so I was like, all right. And so I show up. He hands me and my wife a water bottle and granola, sits us down, has a 80-inch TV in front of us, and pulls up a 3D rendering of the pool in our backyard. And there's even water sound effects because we're getting these little waterfalls and just all these extra touches. So, and he's like, we can live update it right now. You want this longer? You want this taller? So, you know, I asked the, you know, audience, who do you think I went out with out of those 5 people, right? The guy that had the killer follow-up and customer experience, because he got back to me, but his customer experience was superior to the fourth guy who had awful. So that guy responded, but then when he did, it was crap. So you got to respond quickly, and you have to have a buttoned up follow-up experience. And so I don't think enough people put thought into that. That is, it gets leaked over. So it's like, right, marketing, then I sell the person, and then like I onboard them. We missed the nurture. Like, how do they opt in, and then how do they get sold? Like, that is lead nurture. And so that is a whole experience in itself. Like, build a system around that. And so you guys could probably guess, I hired that fifth guy, and they crushed it. We're very happy with the pool. So how much business are you losing because you're not having your follow-up dialed in? You know, like, how many messages do you see, you know, like, didn't get responded for 24 hours or longer, and you feel bad about it? Like, you need to hire somebody to own this, because it is a critical part of your business. I say it's kind of like a water hose. Like, there's a kink here, and water's backflowing, and that water's money, and it's waiting to get flowing. But until you get that kink undone, it's just going to keep backlogging, and you're missing out. So that's kind of my mindset talk on, you know, why follow-up is so key.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. And the mindset is the first step. But what would be some tips that you would have to start improving that follow-up system, so you don't have that kink, like you said, so that you can improve your overall sales process, and ultimately, like you said, that customer experience? What are some tips that you have, maybe like from the, you know, your clients you're coaching and in the gym world?
I absolutely will share. These are things I love talking about. So there's 2 that I'll give. There's your brand new leads, and then there's the old leads you have in your database. And so both of them are just as equally valuable. So the leads are like, you're running digital ads, you got people coming to your website, you got referrals from current customers, like just new people. And I only consider them a lead when I get name, phone number, and email. So even a DM on your social media is not a lead to me till you give them a lead magnet or a reason to opt in or schedule a call. Like, there has to be a contact info for them to be, in my opinion, an actual lead. So the leads, we take them through a process we call the 5x2 follow-up system, which means for the first 5 days, you reach out twice a day. So Monday, you know, afternoon and evening, Tuesday, afternoon and evening. And my recommendation is to change the medium channel. Don't just do text. What works for you doesn't always work for your customers. I sometimes have to get on my team, because like, they very much are text and phone call friendly. They prefer that. And I'm like, guys, email money. Don't just sleep on email. Like, make sure you email them. Some of these people are working professionals. They're on their laptop all day, and they're responding to emails quickly. And so almost every time I give them that soft reminder, they're like, you're right, Dustin. Another sale came in today on an email blast I did. You know, thank you for the reminder. So you could do text, phone call, email, and even a DM on Facebook or Instagram. And even within that, you could do a video message. That's kind of taken off right now. It's like, you find them on Facebook or Instagram, or even if you send it to them on a text, you make a 30-second follow-up video so they can see your face and trust you. And I'm telling you, most of the companies are going to be on board with that in the near future. And that's just going to be the norm. So it's something you should, you know, kind of get on board with. Because at the end of the day, ask yourself, if you were in the customer's shoes, would that wow you compared to another guy? If another guy texts you, but your company sends a personalized video message, hey, Sarah, it's Dustin here at, you know, Gym Reinforcement. So excited to help you grow your business. Just want to see if we can schedule a call. Grab my button below and let's talk. And it's like, you got to say their name and make it personalized, right? Say the name of their gym, say the name, whatever you're help them with, call it out. So that is the 5x2, 2 times a day. That's where a lot of people mentally break down. They're like, that's too much. I'm going to bother them. I'm telling you right now, guys, they're getting texts, phones, calls, emails, social media notifications. You have to stand out above the noise, and the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So if you make the most noise, you will win the business. If you are afraid to reach out, that's going to be someone else's customer. So that would be the first. Any questions on that, Jeremy, before I go into the second one?
No, you go ahead. I'm just eagerly listening.
Okay. All right. Well, the second one is for your database. So I call them a little bit more like prospects. They're kind of like, they're semi-interested. They did opt in, but they never obviously made it to the sales stage. And so they're kind of just collecting on your list. A lot of people, I'm blown away, they ignore their list. They got leads from 2016, 2018, 2020, and they haven't sent them nothing, since they opted in. And they just concentrate on new. And I'm like, you spent good money on that marketing. You've collected all these people's info. Send them an offer. The reason they're not stepping forward is probably A, they don't trust you, or B, your offer was not compelling enough. So make them a better offer. And the number one thing we do when we go in and help a gym is we usually change their offer. We usually jump in and we pick apart their offer. And it's not that their offer was bad. They just drained how long they ran it. Like, it was good. They're like, when I ran this, it was great for 3 weeks. And then, here we are 4 months later and it's not performing. It's like your markets, become desensitized. People need new. Netflix has to constantly be dropping new shows and new videos. So you need to constantly be coming up with new offers. That doesn't mean you got to change your system. I do believe you should have like an evergreen system, but you can change the packaging or why you're doing something. It's Mother's Day sale. It's a summer sale. It's my birthday. We're running a sale. Just do something to give people a reason to reach out. And so that what I recommend on that system is just daily shave off anywhere from 5 to 10% of that list and send them a touch point text. Like, it could be an offer, it could be a checking in, could be, hey, how's everything going? But, like if somebody had 5,000 leads, I don't want you to blast all 5,000. The amount of responses that come in, you'll be overwhelmed. So you grab 250, 500, and you blast them on Monday, but then you get a new batch on Tuesday. And the way the math works out is you'll actually hit it every 2 weeks in a typical Monday through Friday work week. You'll hit the whole list in 2 weeks, then you'll hit it a second time. So twice a month, you're hitting your prospects. And that's a good cadence we found for getting sales from it. So don't sleep on your database. Keep working them. Send them emails, texts, do cold calls. But usually it's the offer needs to change to get them excited.
Yeah, I'm super glad you said that because you're totally right. I feel that people will be so focused on new, like just getting in new leads. And like you said, they're potentially neglecting people that have already shown interest and are really close to, whether in case of gyms joining up or coming in for a consultation. So, I think that's really, really sage advice. Keeping in line with that sales portion of it, because I know that you've mentioned that there's sort of key mistakes that you see again and again with companies and businesses making when it comes to sales. What would you say those? I know you mentioned there's 3 problems you usually come across. What are those 3 problems you see, Dustin?
Yeah, number one is that there's just no oversight on the sales team, no accountability on their KPIs. Whatever comes in. And so either they don't have any KPIs or they're not being held accountable to KPIs. And I think that needs to be brought up daily. I think sales teams really need a daily charge up, a daily little huddle, 5 to 10 minutes. And they just need to all look at their numbers from the day yesterday. And that's the good gut check. Like, oh man, yesterday was not good. I need to really put in some great focus here. So I think it's learning how to lead a sales team is a whole art in itself. And you can read tons of books. There's lots of mentors out there, but like to really drive up the sales when the owner eventually learns to delegate. And that would be the other one is like, I do think the owner needs to sell like for a while. That's one of the last things they let go because they are usually the company's best salesperson. There's usually 2 types of entrepreneurs. There's product and promotion. So if they're like a tech guy and they're into software and they like picking apart all the details and making it more user-friendly, they're probably a product entrepreneur. A promotion is the guy you like seeing on camera. He likes being on camera. He likes making content. He likes selling it. and he gets drained by operations and thinking about all the details. So whichever one you are, if you're a promotion, keep selling and sell for a long time until you can delegate and really find some rock stars who can do it as 80% as well as you can. If your product, find the salespeople now, like you need that taken off your plate because it's probably energetically draining you. So I would say first one is like no accountability. And as owners, we have to take responsibility. If that's not happening, just own up to it and just say, okay, I'm going to attack this, right now and make it better. The second is not delegating it. Like that's one of the things that the owner needs to release, but they also get afraid. So then they hold on to it forever, but that stunts growth. There's no company I know that was built to huge numbers off of one guy's back. Like you have to record your calls. You got to put it down into a checklist. What makes your calls so magical, and teach it. So that would be it. And then, excuse me, dealing with some allergy. And the final one is just more and more feedback and retrainings. So we said, look at the numbers, but who's listening in on the calls and having them give themselves feedback. Again, it's easy to come in and say, you could do this better, you could do that better. Say, okay, let's listen to the close. What did you do? What could you do better? Let them self-diagnose, let them call themselves out, and then they'll be more open to feedback from others. So listening to calls, having them self-assess, that's another thing to do. And that's a great thing to do on that daily huddle. So, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Justin, we are sort of getting towards the end of this episode, but one thing I always like to ask my guests when they come on is more about sort of the personal side and, obviously translating into their career growth and everything like that. But what's your approach to personal growth and how do you go about that, whether it be sort of educating yourself or whether you've learned from mentors? What's been your approach throughout your career and what's your advice to other people in that realm?
Yeah, I definitely think you got to find what works for you. Some people like to read books, as you see, have a nice collection.
Yeah.
But I also got probably another 100 on Audible. Some people want Audible. That's okay. Some people like podcasts. But find mentors that mentor you from afar. You don't have to know them. I don't personally know The Rock, but I get a lot of good business wisdom watching how he makes decisions. Alex Hormozy, Gary Vee. There's many others. And then even looking at history. Leaders like Martin Luther King, how they, acted. So I just say, make sure you get a leader from afar, a mentor from afar, and then definitely invest in mentors sooner. That was a big regret I had. I tried to figure it out on my own too long. And I think that's why I suffered the 6 gyms in 6 years and not scaling. If I had a mentor, open a lot of gyms, he probably could have warned me. So, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So Dustin, I want to, before we do close out the episode, talk just a little bit about your latest book, Reinforce Your Gym. What made you decide to write a book, and what can people expect? I know some of the topics we've spoken about today, we've covered off on some of them, but as a whole, what can people expect to gain from reading your book?
Yeah, so thank you for asking. It is a straight up business book. So I know it's written for gym owners. The examples in it are for them. That's who I work with. But I would say I've had multiple people in other industries, software, landscape, pick up a book and apply it to their business and see measurable change, because business is universal. So when we're talking marketing, sales, and leadership, I even tried to answer your questions so that it applies for anybody, regardless of their industry. So I wrote the book the same way. So it's worth the $15 on Amazon or the $1 on Kindle to invest in your knowledge. And the biggest pet peeve I have is too many people read and then shelf, and then read and then shelf, and then read and shelf. And so they're consumers, but they're not action takers. So guys, take what you learn, kind of hold a rule against yourself. I can't dive into the next book till I've taken action on everything in this one. I think that's kind of a good rule that I've always held myself to. And that way I don't get too many idea fairies swirling around, and that hinders my business and probably fries out my team too. So it's one book, I teach it to my team often, I implement change into the business, and then onward to the next. So yeah, that would be my best advice for that, as in terms of self-development.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that approach to it. Dustin, where can people? We'll have the relevant links in the description, of course, but where can people look you up to learn a bit more about yourself and get in touch with you?
Yeah, so got a lot of things going on. If you want to just connect with me, Facebook or Instagram, just look up my name, Dustin Bogle. You'll find me. Happy to answer any DMs about your business. If you are a gym owner, join my group. It's called Gym Reinforcements. We talk about getting you more sales. Buy this book, obviously. And then finally, we are launching a mentorship for gym owners.
Excellent. That sounds fantastic. Dustin, we are coming to the end of the episode, so just really want to say huge thank you for coming on. I've really enjoyed our conversation and learning a bit about yourself and your career. I personally am looking forward to reading your book. Even though I don't own a gym, I'm very much associated with that world and very passionate about working out and bodybuilding, everything like that. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of analogies in that realm. But yeah, really, really grateful for you taking the time to speak with us, and look forward to chatting again soon.
Thank you, Jeremy. Let's stay connected on social media, my friend. And yeah, best of health and wealth to your audience. Thank you for having me on the show.